Welcome to Cosmic Roadmap. I'm your host, Melissa Lambor, Reiki Astro Geo Guide and best-selling author. Have you ever wondered where in the world you should be? This podcast is about bridging cultures and helping the endless wanderer find their purpose and place in the world. Hear stories from digital nomads, avid travelers, and aspiring globetrotters, and learn how they discovered where they were destined to be and build their legacy. If you're curious about astrogeography and where you're meant to be on the planet, go to cosmicroadmap.com to download your free passport to purpose. Hello, welcome to the Barcelona edition of Cosmic Roadmap. I'm your host, Melissa Lambor. I'm here with my special guest, Justina Medina. She is a born and raised New Yorker, world traveler, and a therapeutic coach, currently based in Paris. So prior to working for herself, she worked with the United Nations NGO mental health group as a fellow. And this experience immersed her in trauma research, evidence-based treatment, giving workshops and trainings in New York and around the world. And today, Justina works with individuals and couples and will soon be offering a treatment manual for couples in her upcoming programs. She identifies as a spiritual person and is a certified kundalini yoga teacher. In addition to her doctoral studies, she has a master's in mental health counseling and has formerly studied psychoanalytic therapy at Los Angeles Institute and Society for Psychoanalytic Studies. She has 11 years experience as a therapist and believes that everybody deserves love and to be loved. So we met through Bridget Aileen Cisco, which is my publisher for the She Speaks series. It was through a networking event, which I've been meeting a lot of people through networking events, and things blossom, and we're here in Spain. Yeah, we finally met in person through Instagram. We connected, and also through the networking event, and now we're traveling together since Valencia.
Yeah.
And now we're in Barcelona and heading to Madrid. So welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. And how has your life been since you learned about astrogeography? We looked at your lines, and you also were called to Paris for a certain reason.
Yeah.
And we realized that you had moon node energy there, which is all about purpose and tapping into your purpose. And I feel like you've been tapping into, the couples therapy and like what is meant to come out of that. So
Paris has been great. Honestly, I never planned on living there, but once I got there, I was just experimenting, see how it would feel. And I just couldn't explain why. I feel so at peace and relaxed, but also meeting all these other expats that live there. My clients are expats, mainly American, that find themselves in Paris as like I do. And it could be hard to navigate moving from the States to Paris or anywhere in the world if you're not familiar with living abroad. But yeah, I feel happy and content. I'm single and I just feel really good. I feel really good about my life and myself in Paris and being in Europe. It's just, I feel really blessed. I didn't realize I would really enjoy living in Paris as much as I do, and it was great to hear from you that it actually makes sense
it confirmed
exactly
why you were being called.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like I'm ready to finish my couples treatment manual, which I will be offering as one of my programs online, and I'm really excited about that. It feels like I'm at a good point in my life. And
how was that shift? Because you're a native New Yorker.
Yeah.
Like we've had conversations like back in the States, like New York is your place. Like how is it that you made that shift to Europe?
Well, I grew up visiting Europe and spending time mainly in Italy, which is the first love of my life. I love Italy and everything and anything Italian, and I wanted something different. I didn't want to move to Italy. I spent so much time there, and I thought Paris is a big international city like New York. London's too much like New York, and I thought maybe a slightly slower pace of life would be more healthy. And like I said, it was an experiment. I wasn't sure if I'd love it. I stayed I'm going to be there a year in August, and I'm going to be there another year, and I'm as far as I know, I plan to continue staying there and just re-upping my visa. But living abroad, I think, is just something that I've always kind of done or thought of. I lived in New Zealand as a young woman. I turned 21 there, and I was there for a year. And I had come from living in Italy to New Zealand, so living abroad isn't like something new to me. And I do love New York. Like, I'm so happy there. But I always felt like I wanted to expand, even though New York is such an expansive, great city. I felt like I personally wanted to experience more of the world. And so that's why I've always been called to live abroad never thought permanently, except for Europe. But yeah, I've even lived in LA for like 7 years. So
what are some tips for people thinking to move from the States to Europe? I know that you're doing some language programs, right?
Well, for France, you can the easiest visa you can get is to get a student visa and study French if you don't know French and you don't want to get a master's, or if you're younger, you finish your bachelor's. But if you're young and you still want to pursue a bachelor's degree or master's degree, I would recommend Paris or anywhere in France, because it's a lot cheaper than it would be in the US, and they offer a lot of programs in English. But if you want to be more adventurous, you can spend a year or two learning French in school like I am, and then take your classes in French. So it is worthwhile if you're willing to do that. But, living abroad isn't for everyone, because it's a completely different lifestyle.
And also, I've been looking at teaching, right? Teaching language, teaching English, which, we're coming from the US, which is very easy to just take the TOEFL exam, right? And do that. So.
And that's something you can do in Spain, but not in Paris, not in France. In France, you could also apply for an entrepreneur visa. There's so many different types of entrepreneur visas, which I will be applying for next year. I'll be here. I have a visa for another year until 2023, but going into 2024, I'll be applying for an entrepreneur visa.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And that would allow you how long to stay?
I believe it could be up to 5 years, minimum 1. And I would be able to, just like, that's when the clock would start ticking towards my French citizenship, if I plan to apply 5 years after that. Unless something unexpected happens and I, for whatever reason, get offered something, a job, or meet someone in another country, then I wouldn't be in France any longer. But right now, that's my plan.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's interesting that you were called to Paris because of your moon node, your purpose. How do you feel like the work that you're doing has expanded while being in Paris? Like, are ideas like flowing? Like, are layers like coming, like the layers to get to that purpose of what your treatment plan is?
I feel more empowered, so I think that allows me to be more expansive. It's the first time that I'm actually fully working for myself and not someone else or an entity, and that feels very expansive and very empowering, and just I don't know, just so free. It feels freeing, and that feels incredible. And I think if you're gonna see a therapist, I would want my therapist to feel as free and like have as little baggage as possible. We all are gonna have baggage, but I feel since I've moved to Paris, like the old baggage and the old wounds that I've been working on and healing for many years have been sort of like they're falling to the wayside, and I feel much better. Like, it just feels great.
It feels like you're stepping into your purpose.
Yeah, it does.
It really is.
Yeah.
And some other energies that we looked at were the moon energy that we're approaching.
Right.
We're going to, actually going back to, we're in Barcelona. You have the same purpose energy, and we've been, going around the city, and you're like, oh my gosh, I
love it here. It's my 3rd time in Barcelona. And and I'm just like, I didn't know.
You have the same line from Paris to here. Yeah.
And I really love it. Like, I'm just like, ooh, this feels good. This feels sexy. I don't know. I'm very comfortable. And, just like meeting a lot of people from other places, of Latin America and Europe. And I'm like, oh, Italian, oh, Argentinian, oh, like all over. Philippines.
Like,
I love it. It's really, it's something I experienced in Paris as well, just like meeting other expats and people from around the world. I really appreciate that. As a New Yorker, it's such an international city, and to come across other people from other places of the world, I'm just...
It feels expansive.
And home at the same time, because New York's like that for me.
Right. And the other one, so going into the moon energy, the moon DC is, the descendant. It's related to relationships. How have you felt in Madrid with that energy? Because it's all about, either relationships, either love or, finding friends easily. So
with Madrid, I've only been to Madrid once, and I was in a serious relationship. I traveled there with a boyfriend, one of my best ex-boyfriends ever. So I wasn't there that long, so I didn't get to meet people and form relationships there, but I did really like it. When I had just come from Barcelona, and then we went to Madrid, and I really, really liked it. I felt like, ooh, this is good energy.
Kind of grounded, like home.
Yeah, people were. I felt like they were extra friendly. Right. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. So I'm excited to visit this time around and see what happens.
Exactly. And you also have your sun line, so not too far from there. The sun line IC is related, and also your Chiron AC. So those are two energies. There's a spotlight on you, people, being seen, being recognized, and then the Chiron has to do with healing. So this seems to be a very healing place, and also related to being seen. So we'll see what is to come. Yeah, and like what you felt also, right, where people were seeing you initially.
Yeah, who would have thought Spain? Because I never did. I did not grow up wanting to see Spain, or
as
even
Latin Americans.
There's this whole
conquistador, like
it's just my dad is like 100% indigenous to South America, and so that whole like thing about
trauma
Spain,
being conquered, right?
I just was like, I don't want to visit that country. I don't want to go there.
Right.
But I was surprised when I did finally come, and I was just like, oh, this is kind of cool. Yeah. And I'm like, do I have to acknowledge that my mom had some of this, family from here originally? And I never wanted to.
Right.
And I'm like, ugh. But I really do feel at home here, so.
No, exactly. And, we do see the racism. Like, there is that, like, underlying racism and things are progressing in their own, different ways. So, so hopefully, progress a little more.
Yeah, and I think
that would be the hope.
Right.
Yeah.
But I also think for us being Americans, American born, there's that perspective, but I think we also get treated probably a little bit better than someone, say, straight from Latin America would, because we have a little bit more of an advantage.
Yeah. And you started in creative writing, in journalism. How did that switch to therapy? Like, how, what was that transition like?
Yeah, that I lived many lives in this one life. That's true. My first job out of school at NYU was at a magazine. I was the right-hand girl for the fashion director there, and he hired me because he didn't have a background in journalism, and I was really good at writing and editing, and so I basically wrote a few articles, and I would edit all of the freelancers' work for the magazine. And at the time, my Italian was still very good. I was fluent because I had, gone to Italy so much and spent so much time there. And that was another reason he hired me, because he would go to Italy a lot for work. And so I was able to speak to him and all of our colleagues in Italy in Italian. Now it's been so many years that I haven't been able to use my Italian, so it's like...
And that's another place that you have Venus energy there, which is all about love and your profession. I love it.
Like I said, it's my first true love. I could die there happily, seriously. So I went from that job to working in music for a very long time, music promotion and marketing, online stuff. And I got to work with bands that I really liked and enjoyed and loved. And that got kind of tiresome in a way. Like, I physically had to be in the office like normal hours and then go out at night and have fun, like doing work and stuff. and I wasn't on much sleep. So when I reached 31, I was like, oh, maybe I should switch it up. And my best boyfriend at the time, who I traveled to Spain with, he was very supportive. So was his family. They were amazing. And he encouraged me to follow my passion, which is therapy and psychology. And I went back to school for my master's.
And you went back to school, was it in New York?
In New York, yeah, for mental health counseling.
Right. And that was one of the things. You have that Mars energy, which is very fiery, for your career. So you were, really trying to go for creative writing in one way, but then you had the Chiron energy, which was all about healing, the healing self. So I love that you had,
That's true.
Yeah, those two energies like playing.
Yeah, because in my own way, I think as a typical New Yorker, I am ambitious, and I might not come off as like, I'm not aggressive, but I am very ambitious. And I did try, I tried, but the psychology, the therapy, really called me, and it is very healing work for myself and for the people I work with, and I truly love it. I've never felt more satisfied with the work that I do than what I do than how I feel when I'm working in a therapeutic way.
Yeah. And what are the clients that you work with? Like what type of issues do you usually like to focus on?
Trauma. Right now, since I've seen the refugees in Syria pouring into Europe, I forget what year that was, 2008 or 9?
Around, yeah.
It really broke my heart. And obviously, all the Mexicans and Latin Americans that are pour into the U.S., just whenever I see footage of any refugee trying to escape that background, it really affects me. And I really wanted to focus on that and work with that population. So trauma work, but also couples work, I was really passionate about when I first started studying for my doctorate. So that's why I'm creating the treatment manual, because I really do believe that we all deserve love and we all want to be loved. And I think, why not help facilitate a healthier way of relating to each other, because we all should get that chance.
Exactly.
And we're all going to get involved in relationships anyway, so might as well, try to be as helpful as possible.
Right. And and you mentioned that you started your PhD in LA. LA was another place that you had good energy, the sun energy, sun MC. So that's all about the future and your career. And you did mention that you had really good, experiences with your professors and the opportunities that came.
Yeah, with my professors all acknowledged that they really liked all the papers I'd written, my participation in classes, my work with clients, because you have to work with clients while you're getting your degree. And my supervisors, I always got really good feedback, but I always felt very comfortable with my clients and with my supervisors. I truly feel and felt blessed being in LA and having the experience that I had professionally. I remember when I left LA and at the end of September, but my last day at work was at the end of August of 2018. I was in my car and I had my last session with each client that week, and I actually said a prayer to God, thank you, God, for allowing me to do this kind of work, because I just love working with individuals and people, and I find it so rewarding.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And where do you see yourself going now? You are a world traveler. What are the next countries that you see yourself visiting?
Well, visiting, sure. This summer I have a ticket to go to Greece with a friend from New York, from back home, that I've known for quite a while. So I'm excited to do that in the middle of August. I've never been, and I grew up around Greek people, so I love that.
And just to go back to Greece, I looked at your lines there, and you had, was it Pluto for transformation and also Neptune for spirituality. So this will be a very transformational and spiritual.
I hope so. I think the food itself will do that.
Exactly.
It'll be healing and transformative.
With every bite.
Yeah, in the sun, the Grecian sun.
Yeah.
So there's Greece, and in September I was planning on going to Berlin with a couple of friends from Paris that are expats as well. And I really loved the impression I got of Berlin when I was there once. I have been to Germany a couple of times, but I've been dying to go back to Berlin, so I'm really excited about that.
You have Saturn energy there, which is more discipline, self-discipline for your career and future. So maybe finishing off that
couples therapy. Maybe that should be my next stop in life. I don't know. And then I have a really good best friend that's moving from New York to the Netherlands, half hour outside of Amsterdam next month. So I'll be visiting him and his wife. And it's only 3.5 hours away from Paris by train.
Right.
So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, and that one also I looked up, and you had Uranus energy, which is unconventional, like events or people, and also ideas flowing through. So maybe more ideas for that manual.
For other programs
for
too.
Other things,
I'm really excited about the Netherlands. I feel like I haven't been there yet, but the idea of it feels really good.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful city too. To explore. How can people work with you? Like, what's the best way? Usually, because it's usually couples and individuals.
Yes.
But what type of programs do you have?
Well, I'm going to be finishing the couples therapy program, but mainly right now I'm working with people individually and couples, and I do it online, and it's just me and them online, with our weekly schedule. And I can be reached on Instagram at the Justina Medina. Yes, the name rhymes.
Yes.
So it should be easy to remember.
Yes.
Or you can shoot me an email at justinamedina@gmail.com.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And do you have any tips, as a world traveler, anyone that's listening in, like how to just keep going, especially like later in your career? Like, I'm also later in my career, approaching 40. Like, how do you do things? Because it's not like the old times where you're just like backpacking.
Yeah.
Like, how do you do it? And in terms of having renting, because there's been difficulties with renting as well, right? As a foreigner,
it's a challenge to rent as a foreigner, especially in France, because the laws for tenants are so great that the French landlords are very wary of renting out to a non-French person. But there's always other expats that have such knowledge about what things to do, which I now have. So I immediately joined a Facebook group that someone suggested that I join, and several groups have been great. Like, any question I have, I pop it in. I'm like, how do I do this? How do I do that? I got a guarantor in Europe, in France specifically, because that's what I need, through a company that acts like it. And they verify your income, your financials, your visas, and it makes owners of apartments and landlords more comfortable. So I have my French apartment lease, which is great. I can stay there as long as I want. So yeah, I was very fortunate, but it does take a while to find an apartment. But anything's doable. I think if you want, like anything in life, anything that you want to do, there's always a way. If there's a will, there's a way. And if you're not sure, ask questions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the Facebook groups, there's probably like meetups, right? Where you keep meeting expats that have, done what you've done, and, can guide you along.
Absolutely. That's what I love about the expat community, that they're so supportive of each other.
Right, because they've been there before, and they can guide you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you so much for being on today. And remember, lineage goes beyond your ancestors. You are meant to connect to the cosmos, so you may finally find your cosmic family. Until next time. Thank you for listening to Cosmic Roadmap. If you would like to book a session with me to explore your own cosmic roadmap and chart your next destination in business, love, and life, then head over to cosmicroadmap.com.